Tonight, the jazzy finale down by the bay.
Live, you can feel it. You connect with people, the audience, the musicians, and you celebrate.
We'll take you live to the Beaches Jazz Fest, where over 50 acts will perform nightly. We'll tell you how long this free event runs. Plus,
but disrupting the whole city street is kind of ridiculous.
They're all very polite and pleasant.
Love it or hate it, the Hells Angels roar through Toronto definitely was the talk of the town today. We'll explain why they're here and what they have planned this weekend.
They've never encountered the problem before. They don't know what to do.
Wildlife experts are out of ideas, and this Toronto homeowner is out of patience after a creepy snake infestation. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Live music is taking over the streets of the East End tonight. The Beaches Jazz Street Festival is back, featuring food trucks, vendors, and of course, the big draw, the bands. Our Dale Manukduk joins us live now from Street Fest. And Dale, this neighborhood has been relatively quiet for the last 2 years. Certainly sounds very loud there behind you.
Sure has, Chris, but not tonight. It is alive and loud. Behind me is the Big Smoke Brass Band. They just finished their set. They did a Michael Jackson melody and Stand By Me. They had the crowd absolutely swooning. Nothing beats shutting down a street for a party. Queen Street East is closed from Woodbine to Beach Avenue for one of the coolest events in Toronto. And cool, not just because we are steps away from the breeze of Lake Ontario, but it's like you mentioned, the food, the vendors, and of course, the music. All That Jazz is back on Queen Street East. For the Blackboard Blues Band, it's their 25th time playing in front of the fire hall.
We've got some great sets of R&B, soul and funk music. Our keyboard player here, Brian Harlick, arranged for a plaque. He's got that we're going to present to the firefighters.
Like other festivals over the past few years, Beaches Jazz Fest did go virtual, but nothing compares to the real thing.
It's not even close. Live, you can feel it. You connect with people, the audience, the musicians, and you celebrate and you clap and you dance. Virtual, you can smile and fall asleep.
What we're hearing is that people love the variety. This year there are 50 bands that will be playing nightly for the 3-day event. And there's not just jazz, there's rock, there's R&B, there's pop music. And when it comes to the food, an equal amount of variety. There's churros, there's Philly cheesesteaks, there's poutines, and even some southern food.
One delicious Philly cheesesteak. There you go.
First time Jazz Fest, absolutely loving it. It's been so vibrant to see Queen Street so packed.
And it's not too crowded, so it's like free. I don't feel suffocated, it's like nice.
This is such a vibrant festival. I don't think there's any festival that I know of that's quite like this, where you get throngs of people just going up and down the streets. It's such a wonderful vibe.
Jazz Festival is a month-long event that brings in about 1 million visitors over that time, but Street Fest this weekend is what caps it off.
We're always excited to have the Jazz Fest in the beach area, and there's a lot of excitement about the amount of people that are actually going to come down.
So, Chris, the music goes from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's why you see the band behind me packing up. Most of the bands here have cleared out for the night. I'll also note, if you don't want to come to Queen Street East, there is staged performances at Woodbine Park, Chris.
All right, wonderful. Well, enjoy the last few moments of it while you can. Thanks, Dale. From a street festival in the East End to the West End, last month organizers changed the name of the Roncesvalles Polish Festival to drop the Polish moniker. Now, after a big public outcry, they've reversed that decision.
We are now hoping that more Polish organizations, more sponsors, more businesses will participate and show that how much interest there is in having a Polish festival.
The name was originally changed by the local BIA to be more inclusive of newer festival installations and to combine with the smaller Ronci Rocks Festival. The decision saw backlash from members of the community, prompting the name reversal. Now, after a 2-year pandemic, the Polish festival will return in September. Now to a police investigation in Scarborough, and one man is dead after a two-vehicle collision. Police were called to Warden Avenue and Comstock Road just after 3 p.m. today. Officers arrived to find two cars had collided, with one of the vehicles pushed off the road. A pedestrian was struck and trapped underneath one of the cars. Police say a tow truck driver was able to free the victim, who later died in hospital. Thousands of bikers have come and gone in the east end of the city tonight. The Hells Angels say the event was a memorial to honor a member who had died. But as Greg Ross shows us, not everybody was comfortable with the cavalcade.
Hundreds of motorcycles lined Carlaw Street between Lakeshore Boulevard and Eastern Avenue this afternoon, forcing police to close down many of the surrounding streets. A nuisance for some residents who live in the neighborhood.
Disrupting the whole city street is kind of ridiculous.
While many others didn't seem to mind.
They're all very polite and pleasant. There seems to be no trouble. Hopefully it'll stay that way.
This was the final destination for members of the Hells Angels biker gang, as well as members of many other biker gangs from around the country after a lengthy procession. It began in Newmarket this morning. Anywhere from 800 to 1,000 bikers taking part in a ride to honor Donnie Peterson, a member who recently died.
Donnie was one of our best friends. We loved him, we cherished him. He was a big part of our world.
The bikers drove together down the 404, onto the DVP, right down to Lakeshore Boulevard, eventually ending on Carlaw at a Hells Angels store.
And they do not have a permit from the City of Toronto.
There was a heavy police presence on the ride and at the rally, but police say they were there for public safety and not to support the bikers. This man, who runs a business on Carlaw, says he received warnings about the event from both sides.
Different points of view. So we're having a party is the one, and the police said it's an unsanctioned event.
This couple visiting from Germany say something like this could not happen where they are from because biker gangs have been outlawed.
Their badges, their colors, the name Hells Angels is forbidden. For us, it's kind of shocking to see them in the open here.
This biker says it's not as big a deal as it's being made out to be.
There's been no troubles. I think, no offense, but the media and I'm sure the police blew this all out of proportion.
Many of the bikers here today are expected to attend another planned event this weekend in Durham region. The Hells Angels chapter of Brooklyn Whitby is expected to host the 2022 Canada Run, and hundreds of members are expected to be there. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Federal Conservative Party leadership hopeful Pierre Poilievre says he'd like to expand the runway at Toronto's downtown Billy Bishop Airport to allow for jets. But one local group is pushing back against that proposal.
You can go from downtown Toronto to Pearson on the Union Pearson Express in 15 minutes. We are in the middle of a climate crisis, and our waterfront has turned into a great climate change fighter. And this would just reverse the scales back to a more industrialized waterfront.
The chair of No Jets TO says an airport expansion would throw ongoing revitalization efforts of the city's waterfront off course, adding the noise from the jets would disrupt the quality of life for downtown residents. The federal government has spent $1.2 million to revitalize the city's waterfront, and Poilievre has dismissed the group's concerns on Twitter. The MP and Conservative leadership candidate says the project will solve the issues seen at Pearson Airport this summer. He also says the expansion will increase airline competition, reduce gridlock, and create 2,000 new jobs. All right, time now for a first look at your weather forecast. Dahlia Ashry is here with me now. And Dahlia, a steamy day today, but the question is, will it last?
Chris, it's been a hot and humid day, and those temperatures are going to continue for the rest of the week. But first, let's talk about what we need and what to expect. The story is all about the heat and the humidity, so you might want to stay hydrated the next couple of days, and you might want to prepare an umbrella. The daytime highs in Toronto, 31 degrees. The hot spot in the region, Windsor. And the cooler spot is Barrie, 26 degrees. So there is a heat warning in effect, which is impacting Toronto, the GTA, but it's also impacting southwestern Ontario in Windsor. And how's the weather going to pan out this evening? Well, we get a little bit of a break. Temperatures dip a little. It starts to cool down as we head into the afternoon tomorrow. that heat will continue. It'll be 31 degrees, but it'll feel like 36 degrees. There'll be winds gusting up to 20 kilometers an hour. But let me tell you, the wind is not going to do much. I'll have more on how the weather is going to look like for the rest of the weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dahlia. Meanwhile, Ontario is opening COVID-19 vaccine appointments for children between 6 months and 5 years old next week. Parents and caregivers can book a spot for their children through the provincial portal as of 8 a.m. on July 28th. Health Canada approved the Moderna vaccine for infants and preschoolers earlier this month. Doses will be available through public health clinics as well as participating pediatricians, primary care providers, and pharmacies. The province also says youth between 12 and 17 will be able to book their second booster shot if at least 6 months have passed since their first. The province also announced it's extending the paid sick leave program that allows 3 days off for workers with COVID-19. The program has been extended to the end of March next year. Now, it was set to expire at the end of this month. Now to a dire look inside Ontario hospitals. 2 unions representing 70,000 workers are calling for action from hospital executives and the provincial government. Meg Roberts takes a closer look.
The birthing unit at Headwaters Hospital in Orangeville was closed last night due to staffing shortages, and last weekend it closed its emergency department. It's an issue that's becoming too frequent, says 2 provincial healthcare unions.
Efforts to quietly manage the health human resource crisis by hospital senior management are failing families, and the public deserve to know more about what is leading to these closed doors, longer wait times, and service disruption inside our hospitals.
In an open letter to the Ontario Hospital Association, SEIU, Healthcare, and Ontario Council of Hospital Unions is demanding the association commits to an urgent action plan, which includes launching a website to disclose real-time staffing numbers, holding weekly press conferences on the status of hospitals, and eliminating the cap on mental health supports for workers. It's asked the provincial government to increase wages and come up with effective recruitment strategies.
And we believe that if we put in place some measures, that we could actually make a huge difference in terms of keeping community ERs open and stopping the closure of services in these communities.
The Ministry of Health says it's launched the largest healthcare recruiting and training initiative in the province's history, which includes a payment of up to $5,000 for eligible nurses, offering nursing graduates a full tuition reimbursement in exchange for practicing in an underserved community, and it will spend $342 million to add thousands of new nurses and PSWs. But some say more needs to be done, and quickly.
This is an exhausted workforce. This is an anxious workforce. It's ground down by the pandemic. It's ground down by the lack of support it's had, and it needs to be supported now in order for it to come through for the people of Ontario.
The Ontario Hospital Association says commitment to the cause was not demonstrated by union leaders today. The OHA says it deeply cares for healthcare workers and that it's doing everything it can to care for those in these trying circumstances. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Pope Francis will be in Canada next week and is expected to apologize for the Catholic Church's role in the atrocities that happened at residential schools. Ontario NDP Deputy Leader Saul Mamakwa will meet with the Pope at a residential school just outside of Edmonton.
I will be sharing greetings on behalf of all the people in Kiiwetinoong, emphasizing the experiences of survivors. Not only survivors, but the intergenerational survivors who continue to be harmed by the Indian residential school system.
The papal visit begins July 24th. It includes a visit to Mesquasis, one of the largest residential school sites in Canada. Most of the pontiff's time will be spent in Alberta, Quebec, and Nunavut. Next up, a story that may make your skin crawl. A man in Etobicoke says he is finding about a dozen snakes in his yard many evenings. It is a nuisance that he has had no luck in trying to solve, and Ali Chiasson went hunting for answers.
We'd be out here in the evening having like a glass of wine or relaxing, and you'd hear shuffling in the eaves trough, and I come out and there's a huge snake making his way down looking for something to eat.
not just one snake. Adam Lieberon can encounter about a dozen on a daily basis.
Their prime time is like 9:30.
Is it affecting like how you can enjoy your backyard here?
We haven't been sitting out here for a couple weeks now.
Oh no.
Yeah. I have a 2.5-year-old, I have a 4-week-old, so I don't want them running out and encountering a large serpent.
Their home backs onto the Humber River.
As you can see behind us, there's lots of tall grass.
They moved in February. The snakes slithered in this summer. Adam has tried everything to stop them, from removing the ivy from the garage so the snakes couldn't climb.
Once we took down the vines, I tried to gravel all of this. I put chicken wire in, and it seems like they're coming out through that as well. And other than that, spray vinegar. We've sprayed different types of essential oils, but we've Googled that are supposed to be good. Nothing's working so far. I've called at least a dozen wildlife companies. Nobody really wants to deal with it. They've never encountered the problem before. They don't know what to do.
It's becoming a real source of anxiety for he and his wife.
Like literally everything looks like a snake, because you get up in the morning, you'll see one move. I'm hoping somebody's going to be watching actually and has some sort of a solution.
The Toronto Wildlife Centre says he may be out of luck. Garter snakes are harmless, even if they are as big as the ones that slither into Adam's yard.
You and your friend?
I know. He's really sweet. This is my new friend Ziggy.
There are ways to mitigate them from getting into spaces like garages, but the Wildlife Centre warns of unscrupulous companies that charge to kill.
So they can come out and charge a lot of money and carry out a lot of practices that not only do not solve the problem for the homeowner, but very often result in suffering and death for the animals as well. So someone really has to do their homework to make sure it's a reputable company. They can call our hotline for a referral. So I think the focus really for us would be on just trying to make them feel better about it and enjoy seeing them just as we enjoy seeing other wild animals.
I'm not sure Adam is at that point yet.
Lots of fun.
But the reputable research continues. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
My goodness. All right, so from snakes to the skies, thousands of new birds have moved onto the Toronto Islands, and they're nesting in such a remote area, it's causing concern. And the city and the Conservation Authority are working to deter them from spreading. Farah Morelli paid a visit.
Started right on the shoreline itself, and they've just sort of continued to build their nesting going back.
On the waters of Blockhead Bay, a conspicuous new neighbor. Double-crested cormorants have started nesting in trees here.
I think the smell is probably the biggest one that people notice for sure. But the tree degradation is definitely a huge part of it. But now they're here, and this is certainly a new addition, but not a welcome one.
The aquatic birds are known to damage trees through their acidic excrement and nesting. They almost went extinct locally in the 60s and 70s due to DDT insecticide. But populations have bounced back.
We're very happy and proud to support this, the largest breeding colony of double-crested cormorants.
At Tommy Thompson Park, conservation officials have been able to contain the birds to an area on the Leslie Street spit. They say they've already started similar mitigation efforts on the island, which involves getting rid of nests.
So we removed immature nests during June to the point where we were no longer seeing cormorants attempting to build new nests.
Efforts that'll continue once the birds fly south.
We want to encourage cormorants that have nested at the Toronto Islands to come and nest on the ground at Tommy Thompson Park.
And then I came over and looked myself, and I was quite surprised to see how many.
Many island residents still unsure what to make of the birds. The hope is containment efforts will actually work.
So the fact that they're here is less because it's quite far from us, but the concern will be, will they keep on spreading, and will they discourage other animals, destroy trees?
I'd be surprised if this situation is going to be resolved even next year. Like, I think it's going to be like several years of getting there early and really scaring them off.
This cormorant expert says now that the birds have actually nested on the islands, it could take a lot of work. And in the meantime,
I think it's good to just have tolerance for other species. We've created these environmentally sensitive areas. This is a native bird that's recovered.
The waiting game begins for spring to see whether these new neighbors will come back to the islands after the winter or set up shop across the water. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
A live look for you now of the city skyline tonight, where it is amazingly still 26 degrees with the humidity feeling like 30. And after a steamy day today, the heat warning remains in effect for Toronto, and I know a lot of people are wondering when a bit of relief is on the way. Dahlia is back, but it sounds like no relief tomorrow. Dahlia, you said earlier another scorcher to wake up to.
It's been a hot and humid day, and the story for the rest of the week is all about the humidity and the heat. So you're going to need to stay hydrated, and well, you might even need to prepare an umbrella as we head into the weekend. The daytime highs 31 degrees in Toronto, southwestern Ontario 32 degrees. That's the hot spot. Barrie a little bit cooler, sitting at 26 degrees. Now, whether or not it's going to rain, we were talking about that earlier. Tonight, it looks like it's going to be fine as we head into Friday, 3 p.m. There's a little bit of cloud coverage that starts to peek through, as you can see over there. And as we head into Saturday, the clouds will start to make its way, but for the most part, very clear in Toronto. As we head Saturday afternoon, still looking nice and bright and sunny, and by the evening it's still looking good. But then you see that activity, that precipitation that starts to make its way into Sunday. Now there is a weather statement, a heat warning that's in effect in Toronto and also in Windsor. So most of the GTA, you're going to feel that humidity and that heat's going into tomorrow and the next few days. Overnight tonight, temperatures will drop to 21 degrees, so we get a little bit of a cool down. We get a break as we head into tomorrow. The temperatures will stay hot as well. Currently tonight it'll be 21 degrees, Hamilton 18 degrees, Mississauga 19. So overall, pretty dry conditions. St. Catharines is where you start to see a little bit of those damp conditions. Now, the weekend is looking nice and bright and sunny, but 31 degrees tomorrow, and it'll feel more like 36 kicking off into the weekend. Make sure that you're staying hydrated, and if you're going to go out to some festivals, make sure that you have some water with you. But still a great time to head outdoors. Sunday is when you want to have your umbrella with you, because that's when it's going to start getting muggy and rainy. Chris?
Great advice. Thank you, Dahlia. For us tonight, it is pandemonium again at the Toronto Zoo. For just the third time in 25 years, an endangered red panda cub was born at the facility.
We are just so excited to be able to share this news. It's not a common occurrence, and this is an animal that numbers, under 10,000 of them left in the wilds.
Exciting, no kidding. The zoo announced today that Paprika, a 4-year-old red panda, gave birth to her first cub on July 13th. The male cub doesn't have a name just yet, but I'm sure there will be a naming competition very soon, and the wildlife staff say both he and mom are healthy. Staff were able to examine the little guy on Tuesday and say he weighs 221 grams, less than a can of pop. Have a great night, everybody.